Alright. So I just hit
We're
go.
live. Yep.
Enter.
How's it going?
I can't get mine started. Look at this.
Dana's trying to get her started on her page, but here we are live on the Zen page.
Help, Jen. I'm like not used to this.
You gotta get this. I don't know. Get your keyboard out of there.
I can't get it out of there.
Hi. You can just share mine later. Oh, there. Go start live.
There we
go. So here we are. A little rocky start. Here we are. Dissecting the Canadian food guide. That's the order of business. Why we're here. It's all the rage right now in the wellness industry, in the fitness industry. And I was wondering, I'm like, is this like very sexy of a topic? Like, is this going to get people interested? But like Dana was just telling me that in the lunchroom at her husband's workplace, people were discussing it. So it is a hot topic. It is really fresh. And sometimes it's hard for us because we're in the industry. So of course it's a hot topic to us. But I think everybody's talking about it. What do you think?
I think people are talking about it. I know it's in the media. Like if you watch or at least listen to CBC, I know it's been on a few times.
Yeah, I heard interviews this weekend on it. I've read a few articles, or I've seen a few articles in my newsfeed on it. Where do we get our news now? We get it on our social media on Facebook, especially if we're not watching TV. But I also get it when I'm driving around and I tune into CBC radio. That really helps.
Yeah, because that's the only radio station.
Heard quite a few interesting things this weekend on CBC. But anyway, so Dana's a holistic nutritionist, and you know, she studies the science of food and how it reacts in our bodies. So I always turn to her when I have these kind of questions, and then I turn to myself too. I read through the guide. I combed through it. I wanted to see what they're recommending. Not that I would go to the guide for advice. It's interesting because like the climate now is not that we're going to the guide for the advice. We're kind of going to people like us for advice, or Google for advice, or people that maybe are in the fitness industry giving advice, but maybe with not the nutritional background. So that's where the whole like keto or paleo or beach body or any of those kind of alternative ways to eat come in. But when we think about all those kind of crazy restrictive diets, and then we look at this new food guide, I think the new food guide is way better in line than...
I would say like the one before was like an F, and now this is like a B.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, so if I had to rate it like that, I would have to say it's a B. I'd like to see it at an A+, considering this is what schools and the hospitals make their policy on, and dietitians are very restricted in how they can branch out. So they have to follow what Health Canada is saying, and if Health Canada is only at a B and it should be at an A+, not good.
Well, that's the thing. We're talking about the food guide like as if it's going to influence our individual decisions, which it could. It could quite possibly. But on a much larger scale is the food guide dictates what happens in our schools, what happens in our sorry, Dana got a notification. Someone to go live.
Looking at two cameras, and it's like I don't know where to look.
Yeah, it's what Health Canada kind of dictates. So that's the interesting side of the food guide.
Yeah, so that's the thing, and I think that's what concerns me, is that they're using this as policy towards your children, the messaging towards your children, the messaging in healthcare, like allopathy, not necessarily other healthcares, but in allopathy, and it's not A+, and it should be if that's going to be the guidelines we're using with people, and that's where I kind of cringe.
Right.
But it went from an F to a B. So I have to give them that. And
so that's really great.
And there's certain things I love.
I'm gonna do a little housekeeping here. If you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching this live, thank you, welcome, and comment, ask questions whenever you want to. If you're watching this on the replay, please just do #replay and let us know that you're here and you're watching, and we're still kind of reaching you even after the live video. So Dana, A+ is what we want to see. This is what we're offering in this video too, is Dana's food guide. It's not Health Canada's food guide, but it's the Zen food guide. And what, what Dana's ideas and what our perspective is on what it could look like. And we've entered a sign-in form here for you to kind of get that. So you can kind of sign up for that and get that and have a look after the fact.
And I'll be posting a sign up on my page for you guys to go and get it as well. So I'll just put that in the comments later on.
So what's your favorite? Well, like, let's start positive. Let's be positive. What's your favorite thing?
Is the mindful eating section.
Nice.
That, like, I find I fail at communicating that to my clients, and here they laid it out so beautifully. And I think it's so important to have that, because right now we live in a society where we're disassociated, like we're not we're not connected to the food we eat. And that's where we start getting this negativity towards our food. And right away, like when I even introduce myself as a nutritionist, people think weight loss. It's so much more than that. And just understanding where our food, like, it's almost like we need a spiritual connection with our food. Like, I know that sounds really hippy dippy, but it's true. And I like the fact that we're getting into this, because we just rush through it. We just like,
yeah.
And overwhelming our digestive system. So it's like, whoa, it can't keep up.
Well, what I think happens is a lot of time life gets in the way, the hectic lifestyle gets in the way, and then all of a sudden hunger calls.
It's not hunger, it's hangry by the time it calls,
exactly.
Right?
Whatever hunger forms in, whether it's a pain, whether it's a headache, whether it's dizziness, whether it's low energy, whether it's bitchiness,
it just hits you like a food.
Hunger's come in, and then you need to shut that up with something, and that's where convenience food comes in.
And the mindless eating too, and the bad choices, like you said. And I find women, we just miss meals.
Well, eating,
and we're not
okay, let's be honest, eating slows us down, right?
Yeah, it does.
It slows us down.
I'm not gonna lie.
But if we look at like us as a whole, what is our problem? What is like the humans' problem? The humans are moving too fast. They're moving too quickly. That's why we're getting so sick. We're moving so fast. We're not having this mindfulness in our eating. We're just trying to achieve and push forward and progress and be productive and get our kids everywhere. The humans are moving too fast, and we need to slow down.
We're all trying to balance too much too, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it's not just moving too fast. It's just trying to fit so much into a day, so we have too much, instead of saying, you know what? This is limiting ourselves to what is a priority that day that can wait, and fueling myself with quality food will make me a better employer or owner of a business, or whatever you are, a better parent, a better spouse,
just better quality of life.
Yeah, you just
better quality of life.
You feel good. You don't feel hangry.
It's like when you're driving around, like say you went out and you bought yourself a Ferrari or whatever a sexy vehicle is. You go out and buy that sexy vehicle. Of course, that's each one of us. So maybe the problem starts there, is we don't look at ourselves like the Ferrari, but we are. We're all Ferraris. And when you go to the gas station, do you put the cheapest fuel in
your Ferrari?
Cheapest fuel in your Ferrari? No, you do not. You go for that premium fuel, and that's all we're asking.
And it's not just that. Because we live in Northern Ontario, you make sure your tank is more than half full.
Oh yes,
right?
Yes, because the weather environment and variables come into play,
right?
For sure.
So you make sure your tank is full, because you want to go for those joy rides, and you're picking the best quality. Well, it's the same thing as us. We want to go for the joy ride, so we want to make sure our tank is full.
Exactly.
Our life is the best quality. Yeah.
Our life is a joyride, and also too, like as a human, you need to eat. Like, you just need to. And the more that we deny that we don't need to fuel our bodies, one, feeding it with processed shit, or 2, not feeding it at all. The more we deny that we don't require food to function, the worse our choices are. So I love the mindful eating.
I love it.
You need to sit down and you need to fuel your body. Like, if we talk about we talk about self-care, self-love, all that sort of stuff, the biggest way we can show ourselves some love is a nutritious meal and a glass of water.
And going through it, like if you go onto the, like, I forget where it is, you go to the main page on Health Canada, and I forget where it is, but they give you tips of questions to ask yourself after you eat to make sure that, were you being mindful? Because if you can't answer these questions, you were just shoving it down your throat.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that tool.
It
should make an app for that.
Like, my mind's going off at this self-love thing, because it's like, we always want to go, like, get a pedicure, or like, what do we do, or go out for drinks, or like indulge for our self-love. And it's like, man, an act of self-love might even be just making yourself like a really nutritious salad. Fuck, I know I sound boring, right? That sounds boring. But if we're talking about just the art of self-love, like what we're going to get the most out of. Anyway, so that's the mindful eating. We're really happy that that's in there.
That blew my mind.
So what would you say then is the worst part of it?
Oh boy. Okay, right away, I think one of my, like, the first thing I looked at, because you shared it, you were like, hey, it's out. And then I looked at it, and right away it was the image. At first, it's like, oh, that's cool. But then I was like, oh, wait. Because they're not giving serving sizes, and I think that's great. We're not talking about calories, and I think that's great. And I can go on why. My whole thing is, if you look at the image, it's like one side all fruits and vegetables, and then at the top is your proteins, and then so it's like 1/4 proteins, 1/4 whole grains. For a growing child, that's not going to cut it. I'm sorry, they're not that. They need more proteins, they need more whole grains, they need caloric dense foods. So if I was a mother and I didn't have a good foundation in nutrition, and I was basing it off of that, and then some of the tips they gave me, my child might not be getting enough. And that's my concern. And then it goes for pregnant women. That protein section needs to be higher. So this is nice for a typical adult, but in different stages of life, that image is not going to cut it.
And Dana included that in our Zen Wellness guide that you can get if you just fill out the form and the link that we both provide in these videos. Mm-hmm. I thought that was an interesting part in your guide, is like, because that was one of the things before with the serving sizes and the daily recommended values and all of that sort of stuff. It was based around like one type of human, but we're all so different, and we have different stages of life, like Dana was saying, with pregnancies, all that sort of thing. So including it in our guide gave it an A+, right?
Well, even how a senior eats, it's not going to look like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's my concern there. But I think my biggest thing is the white elephant in the room, which is addressing alcohol, one. And the other literal white elephant in the room is the dairy's still there.
Yes, I noticed that in every section.
And they fought tooth and nail. And I knew it wasn't going to be removed. I knew it was going to be downplayed, and I was happy with that. The dairy board was not. The fact that you guys are still on there, pat yourself on the back, because you should not be on there. Sorry.
It's a win for you.
Sorry, you don't belong.
But it's also a huge indicator that this is not just what humans should eat food guide. This is government based, and it's industry funded, clearly. Otherwise, dairy would be on there or not.
Dairy is a special occasion treat. It is not part of your day-to-day life. Your Greek yogurt,
it's not the source of protein. That was one of my questions, like if we could explain like why. I know why, because you tell me all the time.
Well, and it's out there. The information is out there. And like a lot of people are like, where's your science? Yeah, my science is several years of education. But you can find the science. No, it's not hidden. It's not some sort of thing I pulled out of my butt. It's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not opinion, it's fact.
It's there's just more and more health practitioners talking about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like it's been overplayed. The health benefits are highly exaggerated.
Of dairy.
Mm-hmm.
And the downside of dairy isn't as well known. Well, not in this anyway.
No.
Because that's the whole thing. It's like if it does have these positive benefits, but they don't outweigh the negative.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like anything. It's always a full assessment of risk factor versus benefit. Some like fruits and vegetables, generally, you don't have to concern that unless you have some sort of underlying health issue. Maybe certain fruits and vegetables are not for you, right? But then we get into like dairy, and then it's like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so we have a mucus forming food.
Yeah.
I could go on. And that's not what we're talking about is dairy. But it's there, and I was not happy with that.
Mucus forming food, when all of us are so mucusy. My kid had 13 kids missing from her class the other day.
There's a really nasty virus going on. My kids are getting, and it's very mucus forming. And I'm like on top of that stuff, and I'm even going, okay, I actually had to pull out the herbs to try and drive it up, because I'm like, I don't want secondary infections here. Let's go. Let's dry this stuff up here. The other thing, negative, is the whole grain. I see bread and pasta, and if you go into the whole grain section, where is it? Whole grains. You can see on my notes. No. So the term whole grain is used very loosely. So if you can make a piece of bread, it's not whole grains. So now what they're telling us in the health field is to use the term intact grains. Most of the grains we're eating should be intact grains. We can't use the word whole grain anymore because the food industry has bastardized it. Okay? So it should be mostly intact grains and then quality whole grains in moderation. And what do I mean by moderation? I'm going to tell you. Once a day max. So that's like a whole grain. And they have wheat on here. Unless it's organic and non-GMO, and I find they don't put that. There are certain foods, organic, non-organic, no big deal. But when you're eating wheat, it needs to be organic and heirloom. Both. Not one or the other. Both. Because we've made a mess of our wheat crop just to get higher yields. But nowhere is that there. So people are like, oh, look at my whole grain bread. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, they say in there the whole wheat is not whole grain. They addressed it like
the whole
mildly,
wheat, but then they have whole grain pasta, whole grain bread. But that's not whole grains.
No.
You know what I mean? Tossing a few whole oats into a bread doesn't make it whole grain.
This could be more specific because the whole grain pasta, when I started to look at what they're differentiating between whole grain and whole wheats, so that could be like the brown rice pasta or these new quinoa pastas.
Yeah,
I mean, you still have to label read on these.
It's still not whole grain.
It's not whole. Yeah.
It's still a processed grain, and it still does not act in the body the same way. In fact, grains are so unique in the fact that as soon as you blend them and mill them, they don't digest the same. In fact, some people think they're grain sensitive, and it's actually that they're just processed grain sensitive. So as soon as you do that, even though the fiber is still there, the body doesn't recognize it, and it's the only food group out there that does that for some reason. So the glycemic index goes up with it, even if it's whole grain. And
whole grain. That was my thing, because they really push the fiber in this section.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like it's more than fiber. It's how the fiber is being assimilated and metabolized in the body, and how we're getting our prebiotics. You don't get prebiotics from, let's say I took something that was high in prebiotics like quinoa or like a black rice, but as soon as I mill it, there's no effect from the prebiotics. But if I take a sweet potato, which is high in prebiotics, and I mush it and make a nice soup out of it, and I blend it, the prebiotics still have an effect. So grains are unique that way. So I really find we use that term loosely. So you want to concentrate and focus on intact grains and keep those whole grains to like.
So what's an example of intact grains, and where would they see that is what the grain is on the label?
It looks like a grain. It's not flour. You can't make bread. If you can make bread with it, it's not an intact grain.
Right.
So think of quinoa. You see the pellets. Millet, you see it looks like little bees.
Steel cut oats.
Steel cut oats, rolled oats. What else? Rice. Okay, so like you actually see the rice.
Yeah.
Brown rice, because white rice, look at that's an intact grain that's been bastardized. So even then, we have to start wondering what they're going to start doing to our food. I just rolled my eyes.
Yeah, she's in the rant mode. So, and are grains like our best source of fiber?
You want to go for pseudo cereal grains because they're on the cusp of a seed and a grain, so they're higher in protein, amino acids, and they actually are higher in resistant starches because it takes more for the body to break down.
So what's an example of a pseudo?
So that would be quinoa. That would be
quinoa.
Chia. A lot of people think chia seeds, but actually it's a pseudo cereal grain.
Mm-hmm. So chia seeds.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So amaranth, things like that. Some of the stuff that most people don't want to eat.
Yeah, because we like it all processed. Digested for it. We like it half digested already, right? Is that what it is?
We want to eat it and make our body work for it.
We want bread so we can freaking smear things on it and make it delicious. That's what we want.
Bread, just not every day.
Just not every day.
Or several times a day.
So one thing that they pointed out was they kept saying healthy food patterns, which I liked, because talking about this, and we talk about living moments all the time, and like what we do in our day-to-day life versus living moments. So if we're sticking to the terminology with the food guide, healthy eating patterns. So that would be what we call the day-to-day living.
Yeah.
And then the stuff that Dana's talking about, the dairy, like say ice cream was your living moment, or the piece of toast with, butter on it, whatever. Oh no, that's dairy. That's true. No, you said that was okay.
That's a living moment.
That's a living moment. So like those are living moments, but the healthy eating patterns should include these whole foods that we're going to send you in the guide if you sign up on the sheet. Something that I thought was super cool was they address the food marketing. Mm-hmm. And
this food guide is only phase 1, so they're really going to be addressing that, I think, in phase 3 or 2.
Well, they said within the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I thought was interesting. In the next 4 years, the food labeling is going to change. A lot of the changes were really great to more reflect. Like, we're not mathematicians there. We can't do the serving size based on the milligrams or whatever.
Well, yeah, like, and then, but even then, though, it's like, so they want to make the nutrition facts label more easier to understand, because it'll be like, well, how many servings is in here and what is my serving and all that kind of stuff. But they're not changing the fact that it's based on a man.
Yeah, they weren't changing that, but they were changing how the readability of it, and they were
warning labels in the front of food, because sadly the typical parent or individual does not turn it over. That's the other thing, is I find they put too much focus on the nutrition fact and less on the ingredients.
Yeah, there was small changes to the ingredients list, though, that they're going to do. Mm-hmm. But before, I wasn't clear, because they said they were going to list sugars, and then they were going to list all the sugars present. But as it goes now, food, like the ingredients list, it's like from the most that's in the product to the least.
But
right?
Health Canada always wants you to look at the nutrition facts label. They don't care about you looking at the ingredients, right, which I think is number one flaw right there. Yeah. It should be ingredient list, then nutrition
know
facts.
What's in it.
Know what's in it.
But also then this is like a whole, actually, there was this, I don't know if you noticed this, there was like, through it, they had the term food skills, and then you can click on all these terms, and then they've got like an index for it. So food skills, and then they started listing all the different food skills that you need, like even like how to pick food, how to read labels, how to then cook and prepare with the right things. So I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But part of the whole, like when you look at the label, the nutritional guide for sure, and they're trying to clear that up. But when you look at the label, the ingredients, I think most people get overwhelmed because they do not recognize half the things on there. And mm-hmm. confusion, I think, is one thing that they're kind of like banking on. They're just like, we just kind of get passive.
And a lot of the times, like from dealing with one-on-one clients and the women in our programs, they're always focusing on the nutrition label. Well, there's only 2 grams of sugar. Or there's 2 grams of sugar, I'm not eating that, and it's a bag of quinoa.
Yeah. But
You
what
know?
I'm saying is because the ingredients list is so confusing in
Well,
itself. That's at
also,
least something that they can see, look at, and
I
maybe
think
identify.
I think yeah, that, but I also think it's because our health, like the health unit and all that kind of people, are pushing the nutrition fact label. So they think they're being wise when they look at that, but you need to take both. Like number one, I always tell clients ingredients first. And sometimes once you become like especially my clients, they know what to look for, they know what the red flags are. Most of the time, right from there, you can tell it's a piece of crap. Then once you clarify that it's not crap, then you can look at the nutrition label.
You know what I do? I know what's crap and what's not crap, but sometimes I pick up like less crap and just see like, is there sugar in it? And there always is, but it's like you're just so hopeful that maybe like it won't
Maybe.
be
I know,
there.
I'm the same way. I'm like, maybe.
Maybe.
But even then, I find
this sauce would be so easy.
I know. It's like,
and then
oh,
dairy
maybe.
and sugar.
Or you pick up something that you're used to buying and then surprise they added sugar to that.
Yeah, you got to read the label every time.
Just because you found something that's safe is every once in a while it's good to review.
Frank's Red Hot is a perfect example. You can find batches that have no sugar and you can find batches that have sugar.
And we're not talking because of those different flavors, we're talking about the same.
The original.
And sometimes on the same shelf.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if one batch is still left over, you know, it's like how they stock the shelves.
One of my shopping groups, and one of the first shopping groups I did for our program, and we're like, look at that, you know? That was awful.
It's crazy. We seem crazy, don't we? Reading all these, dissecting all these. But I don't know. It's interesting. I look at my body the way it functions and the way it moves and what I want out of it. And then I fuel based on that.
Yeah.
And also, I just like want to avoid the medical industry as much. Like, it's an emergency system. It's not a place.
It's an acute care system and has its place, but it's overused and abused. And I'm sure they even think that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, look at, there's no room in the hospital for people. People are being putting everywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe if we
that's my motivation to fuel.
Yeah. And there's actually, and I can't find it. There was this doctor who wrote a really great article, and it was about the upcoming, because at the time it wasn't released, Canadian Food Guide. And there's an organization of doctors that are really like, they really think that this is number one. This is like, nutrition is so important, and we wouldn't have to deal with half as much issues. So if we had more emphasis on the quality, and the thing is, like, we have this new food guide, they're going to create policies, but the schools are going to break them. They're breaking them now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're breaking them with a lenient
people
guide.
are mad about this. And this is not even, this is B. Could you imagine if it was A+? People are upset because pizza's not on there. Like, I think also we have to realize as society, like, at one point, I think it was 2014, Subway was rated number 2 for obesity. And everybody's like, oh, you're a nutritionist, you're going to make a killing. And I'm like, no, this is not good for me, because they're content.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're content eating this way. Yeah.
And upset that this tells them not to. But the main thing about the food guide, like I was saying there, it's healthy eating patterns. Does that mean you can never have pizza? No, eat your damn pizza, but just don't eat it every day. That's the thing. As if the government is ever going to tell you to eat pizza. Why? How would that be? Does that mean that pizza shouldn't be around? I mean, we should never have pizza? No, that's not what we're saying. That's not what the food guy's saying. Healthy food patterns. I like that word.
I like that.
Pattern.
I like that pattern.
Your pattern is what your pattern is. And sometimes you get off your pattern because you're a human and you can make the choice, and, you know, you can feed your body whatever you want to, but get back in that pattern. We get on the pattern where we set our alarms in the morning to go to work every day. We get on the pattern that we do like our favorite activity at night or whatever our patterns are. Why can't food be the same? Why can't it be incorporated in that pattern and the choices be the same? And then we're like, oh, we want convenient. We want this is fast. This is easy. This is this is that. It's like food is why, like, we're alive because of this stuff. It's not a nuisance. It's not you know, oh my God, it's like, you know, so annoying that I have to eat or I have to feed all these people or anything like that. It's like, this is the reason why you're still living this food, and the why we're still functioning. It should be in the forefront. And if you're too busy to feed yourself and your family, the problem is not food. The problem's not the food guide. The problem might be
You.
I know I'm getting all sensitive. The problem might be you. Might be your schedule, and it might be your choices.
No, that's what I mean, and that's what I mean by you is that like you need to
savage.
You need to reassess your life because self-love is making it work more efficiently for you, right? So that's why I said you. And it's not because I'm like, it's your fault.
No,
it's
say with it. Savage.
You need to sit down and reassess. Maybe you need, it's like that new year, new you thing. That's bullshit. You just need to brush yourself off. So maybe you need to be a little bit more educated on the food you're eating. Maybe you need to reassess your life to make more time for important things.
Slow down.
So you. That's why it's you.
I called her a savage and then she got all like sensitive about it. No, it's good. It's good.
But
I had a few more no, I got them all. We got them all. Other than the water one. You know what? I really like the section of the water. I mean, water's huge. All I drink is water.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, I'm glad about the water too. That was like in the fact that they had the image of the water.
Mm-hmm.
When they were like part of the process of this is they wanted input from Canadians, whether you were a dietitian, nutritionist, just the average mom, whatever they wanted. And I decided to take that opportunity. And one thing is like if you're going to market something beyond water, it better be breast milk.
Yeah.
That's it. Kids under 4 and even a little higher, because in some cultures it's normal, breast milk and water, that's it. That's all they need, breast milk and water. First 6 months of life, breast milk.
That's it.
That should be in the Canadian Food Guide.
That should be in the Canadian
Well,
Food Guide.
considering the evidence, right? The
Mm-hmm.
evidence is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would add in is breast milk.
Breast milk. Yeah. But they don't really even talk much about
No, they don't.
age groups or anything.
No.
This is just a standard human.
We're all robots.
We are all the same. No, we're all unique, beautiful butterflies, and we need our own unique food guides, right? That's what we do. That's like why we're in business. Because that's the thing. That's what I was thinking about. It's like if this is the authority, then we are the support system to get you there.
But I can't support all of
I know. This isn't the authority yet.
And that's why I became a nutritionist and not a dietitian.
Yes. So, yeah. Anyway.
But there's a lot of good things.
There is. It's like you know what? It's progress.
And
it's progress. It's progress. And we're on our way. And we're along for the ride, right? It's like, and you know what? This is what I always think. The government saying it, Dana saying it, other healthcare practitioners saying it. It's all about belief system. It's like you pick your belief system, you pick what you want to eat, and you do it. But and if you want support, if you connect with, practitioners that, kind of speak to that belief system, then go connect with them. But maybe don't connect with the industry, the ones who are making money off selling you the food.
Yeah, so don't go and ask nutrition advice at a supplement store.
And then walk out with a big bag of stuff. Well, you know what? Differentiating between a salesperson and a healthcare professional.
Yeah, and be really careful because I find because some of the alternative titles are not regulated in Canada, I feel like there's a lot of ones popping up and they're actually sales representatives being given certain titles to make it look like they've actually gone to school, have insurance, all that kind of wonderful stuff, but they don't. So please just like inquire.
She's so harsh on it because she jumps through hoops to keep her registrations and all that sort of stuff.
I jump through hoops to keep up my, like I'm in school constantly to keep my designation and to see people flaunting titles that they just got because they sell a certain product. And then people going to them instead of me because I actually charge a fee and they're giving free advice. It's really frustrating because the advice often is very unwise. So
speaking of free advice, everybody wants something for free. It's like, I get it. People want things for free. And you know what? I look at the free things that we do as a handshake, a way for us to get to meet you and talk with you. So if you'd like to shake Dana's hand, I give all my Zen members 15 minutes with this lovely nutrition nerd. So you can ask her questions, you can get her advice, and mainly it's her to give you an opportunity on what she can offer if you wanted to take it to the next step. But for you, it's an opportunity to, maybe if you had 3 questions, maybe if you do your own nutritional homework and you read all those cool studies and you do all that stuff, but something isn't just adding up, you can use your 15 minutes to ask her about that. And if you ever want to delve deeper into it, Dana does one-on-ones. We run a wellness program, as well as our upcoming 8 Weeks to Wellness, which is our elite exclusive personal training and nutritional support
with a party at
program.
The end.
With a party at the end. With a party
when she put that in there, I was like, that's so fun.
I know. Well, at the end of our 8 Weeks to Wellness, we celebrate with a private party here at Zen, so we can like show off our results and celebrate with our girlfriends all the hard work and dedication that we have put in. So these are all new things happening at Zen. We're about fitness, and fitness is about overall fitness. You know, the way the body works, the way the body moves, and the way the body thinks. So
including how the digestive system.
Yeah. Exactly. The body.
The food moves through the body.
So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again.
And don't forget to sign up for the free food guide.
Oh, yeah. The A+ food guide. She gives herself an A+. We'll see. You tell us what it is.
I'm going to say it's an A, because maybe there's grammar issues. I don't know. Maybe.
But you know what? Your guide includes people of all sorts of ages and pregnancy levels. And that's what we like. Anyway, sign up for it. Bye.
Bye.